So should we start by introducing yourself?
Okay, so my name's Connor Anderson. I'm a vegan animal liberation activist. I chose to become vegan around 2 years ago, and at that same time I also decided I wanted to do more than just be vegan. I wanted to actively participate in ending the massacre towards all the animals on this planet, the 150 billion land and marine animals that get slaughtered every single year. So since then I've been doing everything I can for the animals in terms of taking to the streets and trying to educate the public about the reality of the meat, the dairy, the egg industries. I've been going to slaughterhouses to gather footage to document the animals suffering, to show the world what's going on. And so basically I'm just a regular guy. I'm nobody special. I'm just a guy who saw the truth and decided to do something about it. It's something that anyone can do. It's something that many people actually do, and it's just going to keep going until we change the world, until we achieve what we want.
Okay. So do you mind to tell me how old are you now?
I'm 19 at the moment.
And you're still a student?
Yeah.
Final years?
Yeah.
So what are you studying?
I'm studying music at the moment at Access to Music in Hoxton, which is in London.
And you said your hometown is
Romford. It's Gideon Park, which is part of Romford. Yeah.
Okay. I just read Romford. Okay. So you said you decided to be a vegan like 2 years ago.
2 years ago, yes.
That will be 2016?
Yeah, 2016.
Do you remember which month? Maybe summer,
It was
spring?
tough to say because I went vegetarian first in January 2016, and then it took me a few months to cut out the dairy and the eggs, and I can't remember exactly when I did it. I think it was probably around May, June, July, so like late spring, early summer of that year.
So what makes you change your mind?
So it all started when I was in sixth form at the time, in 2016. I was studying geography at A level, and at the time we were doing a lot of environmental geography and learning about different issues around the world, such as people not having enough food to eat, people not having access to water, lots of what's causing global warming, all those kind of things. So we did a couple of lessons on animal agriculture and the impact that has on the environment. I learned some absolutely shocking facts, such as animal agriculture is responsible for up to 51% of global carbon emissions. Animal agriculture is the industry most responsible for deforestation, to make room for the animals grazing, to make room for growing the crops to feed the animals, and it's the main cause of world hunger as well, because all those crops that we are feeding the animals could easily be fed to humans. So that got me thinking. I already knew what veganism was, but I didn't really know much about it. This kind of exposed me to the environmental side of veganism, which is a huge part of it. At the same time, a friend of mine who actually sat next to me in that geography class, he'd just gone vegan at the time. And we didn't really talk much about the animal rights side of things, but we did talk a lot about the health side of things, because he was physically becoming more healthy. I could see the change as it was happening. He had so much more energy, he had more endurance, he was able to concentrate a lot better. So I was kind of exposed to two aspects of veganism at the same time. I didn't know much about the animal cruelty side of things, but finding out about this other stuff encouraged me to do a bit more research. So then I started to see some videos of what was happening to animals in slaughterhouses. For example, like pigs having their teeth clipped out, having their tails cut off without any anaesthetic. I think in the dairy industry, cows were having their calves stolen from them at birth because they can't have those. The industry can't have those calves drinking the milk that the industry would rather sell to the public instead. I saw videos of male chicks in the egg industry being thrown into grinders or suffocated to death in huge plastic bags at less than a day old, because obviously male chicks can't lay eggs, so they're deemed as worthless to the industry. And as I was watching this, bear in mind what I'd already said, I'd seen my friend go vegan and how much healthier he was because of it. So as I was watching these videos, I knew we weren't doing it because we had to. I knew we weren't doing this to animals out of necessity. I realised that the only reason we're treating the animals this way is because we like the way they taste. And I'd always considered myself to be an animal lover, and there is absolutely no way we can justify what we do to these animals just because we like the way they taste. I also watched a couple of speeches online at the time. One of them was called, I think, 101 Reasons to Go Vegan by a guy called James Wildman. And another one was called The Best Speech You'll Ever Hear by Gary Yourofsky. Those are both on YouTube. And those speeches, they kind of made my mind up that I was going to go vegan. It also made me decide that I wanted to do more than just be vegan. As I've already said, I wanted to actually go out and do more for the animals, just like these two guys did with their travelling around giving speeches to everyone that they can find. So, like I said, I went vegetarian first. That was in around January 2016, I think. And then I gradually cut out the dairy and the eggs over a few more months. In hindsight, I know I could have done it a lot quicker. In fact, one of my biggest regrets is not doing it sooner. I'm sure most vegans will say the same thing, but I eventually got there and I started doing activism as much as I possibly could. I've set up some of my own local groups. I supported other groups in London, in Hertfordshire and Kent, all around. And this brings us to where we are today.
Mm-hmm. Okay. As for the videos you mentioned, did you find them just by your own research, or anyone, maybe your friend, suggest you to watch this video?
It was kind of a bit of both, because he did tell me that I could go on YouTube and find these videos. I mean, I kind of knew they were already on there, but up until this point, I decided to just ignore them. I thought, I didn't want to see this. I don't need to know this happens. After finding out about all this stuff about the environment and the health, I did decide to look for them myself. I found lots of UK footage, and that's key actually, because it showed me that it wasn't just happening like on the other side of the world. It was happening right here, right on my own doorstep. In fact, one of the videos I saw was from a slaughterhouse, which is about a 15-minute drive from my own house. So that really made me realise how close to home this actually was. So it was kind of my own research that led me to these videos. But I was kind of prompted by my friend as well, if that made sense.
Yeah.
Since then, a lot more videos have come out. In fact, last year, a documentary came out called Lands of Hope and Glory. That's on YouTube, and that is all UK footage. It contains film from around 100 different slaughterhouses, different factory farms, different dairy farms, etc. So I use that a lot in a lot of my demonstrations. But when I was doing my own research, this documentary didn't exist, but there was still enough out there for me to see what was going on, for me to realise that what was going on wasn't acceptable, and that was what led me to make the change.
Okay, so your friend is just a vegan, but he's not doing anything for...
Well, he actually went back to being only vegetarian after I'd gone vegan, which is actually quite ironic. He made me vegan and then stopped being vegan himself. But he's actually in the process of going vegan again now. I think that's actually because of me. So it's a bit of a weird cycle going on here. He made me vegan, then he sort of stopped being vegan, and now I'm making him go vegan again. And also I hope that when he does eventually go vegan, I will be able to persuade him to get into activism as well, because he is an intelligent guy, he's a reasonable guy, he's good at talking to people. It was him talking to me that made me do my own research. So hopefully he will get into activism as well, just like I do. And he doesn't live that far from here as well, so it'd be a really useful asset, I think.
Mm-hmm. And among all the videos you've already looked at, if I asked you to suggest one video, or maybe could you tell me which one influenced you most?
One that influenced me the most? Probably The Best Speech You Will Ever Hear by Gary Yourofsky. Because that speech did contain footage in Gary
G-A-R-Y?
G-A-R-Y, yeah, and Yourofsky, Y-O-U-R-O-F-S-K-Y. Yeah, and the speech is called Best Speech You'll Ever Hear. Best Speech You Will Ever Hear. It's a really, really well-known speech. It's been seen by millions of people all over the world. It's changed so many people's diets. It's changed their lives. It changed my life. It's absolutely incredible. So that was probably the most influential for me. There were lots of others as well, but there was something about the way he got his points across that really spoke to me the most. because he was very unapologetic. He didn't make any excuses. He said it how it is, and that's what I like in a person when they're completely honest about what's going on. They don't sugarcoat the truth. That really spoke to me. That really opened my eyes.
So is it also available on YouTube?
Yeah, that's on YouTube as well. That's actually, the speech was in 2010, I think, and in that time it's converted probably millions of people.
So when you first became a vegetarian and then gradually to be a vegan,
Yeah,
do you find it's difficult?
It was at first, but that was probably because I didn't do much research into the food side of things. Like, I did so much research into what was happening to the animals, what was happening to the planet, that I was determined to start straight away. And I did find it tough at first. I didn't ever have any lapses because I was so determined that I wanted to do it. It was difficult at first, but then gradually over time it's just become so much easier. Like, these days I have absolutely no craving for meat or any animal product whatsoever. In fact, the idea of eating animal flesh again, which, let's be honest, that's what it is, animal flesh. The idea of eating that again physically makes me sick. I will never go back, and that is a promise I'll make today. I'll never go back.
So how's the procedure? It's like first just give up all the meat, and you still can eat eggs and milk, and then you will give up milk and eggs?
That's the way I did it. Everyone's different. Some people make the change overnight. They go from meat eater to vegan overnight, and if a lot of people do that, if that's something that you can do, I would always encourage people to do it as quickly as they can. But I also accept that, how do I put this? Not everyone's going to do it overnight, and if we start sending out this message that you have to do it right now, then that's just going to put people off. So I encourage transitioning as long as veganism is the end goal. I don't like to use the term baby steps because that implies that you can go as slow as you want. And like I said, I actually went a lot slower than in hindsight I feel I could have done, and that is a huge regret of mine. But yeah, so
as long as the final destination
is veganism, yeah, that's what I'm concerned with.
And so after you became a vegan, did you see any difference? Like you said before, you found your friend is more concentrated.
Yeah. For me, I had so much more energy in the mornings, which I actually needed, because when I started going to demonstrations and protests, I was sometimes getting up at 2 a.m. in the morning. Sometimes I don't even sleep at all, so I need to have this extra energy, and that's what veganism's provided me with. Also, before I went vegan, I suffered from dehydration quite a lot, because probably down to poor diet management more than anything else. But then when I went vegan, obviously vegans eat a lot of water-rich foods like fruits and vegetables, so that went almost instantly. That was absolutely fantastic for me. In general, I feel like I can concentrate a lot more. My motivation is at an all-time high.
Will you describe your life became better?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I didn't go vegan for myself. That wasn't the reason why I did it. I did it for the animals, I did it for the planet, but I've got so many personal benefits from it as well. And I like to think of that as nature's way of saying thank you. I know that probably sounds quite hippie, if you know what I mean, but that's just the way I like to look at it. I definitely feel so much better, and most vegans will say the same thing.
But how will you get, because you don't eat meat, so you won't get like iron and vitamin B or vitamin D? How will you?
That's actually a common misconception. You can get every essential vitamin, nutrient on a vegan diet. Iron is found in most green leafy vegetables. It's found in all kinds of things. Vitamin D, that actually comes from sunlight. I know here in the UK that's it's quite sporadic, isn't it? Like, you get a lot of sunlight, then you don't. Then there are some vegan products that are fortified with different vitamins, like they have vitamins added to them. But even if you're sticking to a purely whole foods plant-based diet, so you're just eating the fruits, the vegetables, the nuts, beans, legumes, that kind of thing, you can get all those nutrients. Because if you look at it this way, when people eat animal flesh, and they think they're getting the nutrients that way. Where do you think the animals got those nutrients from in the first place? When you eat animals and get protein that way, those animals will have got that protein by eating plants. So surely it makes more logical sense to go to the original direct source of the nutrients rather than simply filtering them through somebody else's body. And in fact, humans have no need for meat or animal products whatsoever. Physiologically, if you look at the length of our intestines, our digestive system, the shape of our teeth, we are actually a lot more similar to the herbivorous species all over the world. We have absolutely no need for animal protein. We have no need for cholesterol in our diet, clearly, which are both things that are only found in animal products. So a vegan diet is the way that humans are physiologically designed to live, which goes back to my point of if it's not necessary to eat animals, if it's not necessary to inflict this needless suffering on them, then why would we? Especially because it's becoming so much easier to be vegan these days. I'm sure you've noticed there are more and more supermarkets, more and more restaurants having vegan options. I mean, even here today I've had a tea with soya milk, which pretty much every cafe will do, that they will provide these days. So it's so easy.
Yeah, that's true. So what kind of food do you eat now? Just fruits, vegetables?
No, anything I used.
Yeah, just maybe what did you eat for today's lunch?
Today's lunch, it wasn't the most exciting lunch, but I had vegan cheese sandwiches. There is such a thing as vegan cheese. You can go into any most supermarkets and you'll find different ones out there. Basically, in general, I eat everything I used to eat in a veganised form because we have vegan alternatives for meat. Some of them taste so realistic that I've had to check the box again to make sure they definitely weren't real. You can go to any supermarket and you can find all the milk alternatives as well. Off the top of my head, there's soya milk, oat milk, almond milk, rice milk, hazelnut milk, cashew milk, hemp milk. I could go on, there's so many of them. And there's even a vegan egg alternative these days. I haven't tried that myself, so I can't comment on how it tastes, but it is growing in popularity. So basically, a lot of people seem to see veganism as like quitting certain foods. I don't think of it like that at all. I think of it as more substituting foods, if that's what you're into. Some people prefer to just go completely whole foods, like I said, and just stick to the fruits, vegetables and nuts, seeds, grains, legumes, and that's completely fine as well, as long as somebody's vegan, as long as we're creating a vegan planet. That's what I'm concerned with. I don't really care about what people eat, as long as it is vegan, as long as it is cruelty free. And like I said, it's so easy to do that these days.
And how about after you became a vegan? Do you feel you make more friends who are vegan as well?
Yes, I did for sure.
I mean, your friend circle.
Oh, in terms of my friends becoming vegan, or just meeting new vegans? Yeah. Not at first, because when I first went vegan, I didn't get into activism straight away. So it kind of felt like it was me against the world, if you know what I mean. I lost a lot of friends just because they didn't like the fact that I was vegan, and I was very vocal about it. I was never rude to them. I was never shaming anyone, but it's unfamiliar to a lot of people. So a lot of my old friends walked out of my life. I've lost a few family members I don't really speak to anymore as well. But when I got into activism, that was just incredible. I met so many new vegans, not just from my local area, but from all over the country. The more I do, the more people I meet. So there's a great social aspect to it as well. Obviously, I'm not doing it for that reason. I'm doing it for the animals, but that is a huge positive as well. It makes me feel a lot better. It made me feel a lot better in the sense that I now know I'm not alone. It certainly felt like that at the start, but now I see all these new vegans coming into my life, new activists as well, which is also key, because not only do we need more vegans on this planet, we need more people to actively go out and speak for the animals, just like I do, just like my friends do. And to see that going up all the time, it's incredible. So to give an example, I was at the Animal Rights March in London in September. 5,000 people turned up. The year before that, which was their first one, 3,000 people turned up. So the number has nearly doubled in 1 year alone. That shows how quickly this is happening. So I'm meeting all these new people. It's absolutely incredible from a social point of view, and and from the point of view of the movement, seeing how quickly it's growing, it's really inspiring, and it's given me genuine belief that I could see the change that I'm hoping to see in my lifetime.
So you meet these new friends during the protest or meeting?
Yeah, generally. I also go to a few vegan meetups as well. Like there was one I went to in St Albans after.
Is it every week?
It's quite sporadic, like just here and there. I don't actually go to that many, but I have been to some, and I have met new vegans there who I've actually encouraged to get into activism. And also, when I do go to protests and stuff, it's not just the people that are at the demo that I meet. Sometimes I'll meet people passing by who happen to be vegan, who were just passing by, and I speak to them and I get them into activism as well, so I get to connect with people that way as well. I meet all kinds of people from all different backgrounds, all over the world. It's just a fantastic thing to be a part of.
Okay, and you just mentioned that some of your friends went out.
Yeah. The thing is,
why does that happen?
Because I'm challenging the belief system that they've been raised with their whole life. The thing is, these people seem to forget that I wasn't always a vegan. I was a meat eater for 17 years and then went vegan after that. They don't like being told that what they've been taught to believe their whole life isn't true, because we were all told as kids that, you know, things like, for example, we need meat for protein, we need cow's milk for calcium, we need fish for omega-3. These are all complete myths, and people don't like to hear that because they don't like to be told that they've been lied to their whole lives. They also don't like to be confronted about their choices. So obviously, like I said, I never attack people over eating meat, but I never sugarcoat the truth. I'm not an apologist. I say it how it is. I tell people what goes on. I show people what goes on, and I guess for some people they just don't like that. They don't like being confronted about the choices they're making every day, and that's why a lot of people have walked out of my life. But for every person that walks out of my life, I meet another 5 vegans, so I'm not really missing them at all, to be honest.
Okay. But if your friend, will you make friends with someone who's not vegetarian?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, most of my family are not vegan. Most of my friends who I knew before activism are not vegan. If I cut every non-vegan out of my life, I wouldn't.
So you still respect
your... I don't like or respect their choices, but I remember that I was once in their position. So at college, for example, as far as I'm aware, I'm the only vegan there, and I'm friend. Well, there are probably 1 or 2 others that I don't know about, but in my class, I know I'm the only vegan. But I still work with them. Like I said, I'm a music student, so I rehearse with them, I perform with them, I get on really well with them. It's just like, how am I going to persuade people to become vegan if I won't even speak to them in the first place? That's the way I look at it.
And are your family members vegan?
A couple of them are. My second cousin was the first one to go vegan. This was years ago. Like, I was really young at the time and I didn't really understand it. Then her mum, who is my great aunt, she went vegan at around the same time that I did. For the same reasons, really, and she's recently started getting into activism as well, which is great for someone her age. My mum is currently a pescatarian, which means she doesn't consume any meat apart from fish, and she's gradually tried to cut out the fish, the dairy, the eggs. And there are other members of my family that have made small changes, like they've started eating more vegan food, but in terms of actual vegans, it's just me, my second cousin and my great aunt who are doing it.
Okay. And is your mom influenced by you?
Yeah, most of my family are influenced by me to an extent. Like, for example, even my family members who aren't going vegan as such, like they won't buy Canada Goose jackets because I've spoken to them about it, or they won't wear fur, or they won't go to the greyhound races because I've told them about it. So I'm having an influence on the people around me, even if it's not to the complete extent that I hope for.
So generally speaking, your family, they support what you do?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there have been a couple of relatives who have walked out of my life because they didn't like the way I approached it, or they just didn't like the message at all. But in general, most of them are pretty supportive about it. My immediate family, so my mum, my dad, and my sister, they've always been completely supportive of everything I do, and they know that I'm right about this. They just think it's going to be so much harder than it's going to be. I mean, even though I prove them wrong on that every single day, seemingly. I just need to keep pressuring them in a way that's not going to turn them off, if you know what I mean. And I'm sure they will get there eventually.
And could you please explain what animals' rights are?
Animal rights. So there are two types of rights that any living being could have access to. There's the primary rights, so for example, the right to live, the right to be free from fear, just the basic rights that we'd expect anyone to have, and those apply to both humans and animals. Then there are secondary rights which humans only really have a desire for, so such as the desire to go out to work, the desire to own material possessions. So we're kind of different in that sense, but by animal rights, what I'm fighting for is a world where no animal has to live in fear, where no animal has to suffer for our own selfish needs, so for food, for clothing, for testing, for experiments, for sport. That's what animal rights is all about, putting an end to all of that and recognising that they have a right to be free just like we do. Because in all the ways that matter, animals are no different to us. They feel pain, they feel love, they feel happiness, they feel sadness. They have, they use their eyes to see like we do. They use their ears to hear, their mouths to speak in their own languages. They have a heart to feel as well. These are all the things that really matter. And a lot of people want to justify what we do to animals on the basis that, say, for example, we're more intelligent than them. That's what a lot of people seem to think, or that we've done things that they haven't done. But since when does that mean anything? Some humans are more intelligent than others. That doesn't mean that the less intelligent humans are any less valuable or have less of a right to life than the others. So that's what animal rights is all about. That's the message we're trying to get across, and it is working. In the 2 years that I've been vegan, the change has been absolutely incredible. More and more people turning up to protest, more and more people turning up to the big marches going on, more and more people going vegan, more and more people messaging me every single day, asking for advice on going vegan because of my posts or because of other things they've seen. So it's working. Far too slow from the animals' perspective, but it is working. This has been going on for a very long time. I'm fully aware that it's going to take a long time to abolish completely, but we are getting there, slowly but surely.
And do you remember what's the first time you joined animal rights protest? First event?
Yeah, I remember the exact date actually. It was July the 15th, 2016. I joined Essex Pig Save, which is at the Essex Pig Save. I mentioned earlier that in one of the videos I watched when I was doing my research, there was Essex. That's it. That's that's the council. ESSEX. I mentioned Pig Save. I mentioned that when I was doing my research, there was a slaughterhouse which was really close to home. There are monthly vigils held outside that slaughterhouse. What that means is we go there, and as the trucks are coming in with the with the pigs inside them, we just stop the trucks for a couple of minutes and get footage of the pigs to tell their story. We post these videos online to show people that these animals are living, breathing beings who are having their lives taken away from them just because we like the way they taste. It also gives me an opportunity to really connect with the animals. I went along to Essex Pig Save. I'd already heard about the Save movement, which is a global organisation. I never knew there was a local group to me, so when I found out there was one, I decided instantly, right, I'm going to go along and see what this is all about. At this point, I didn't know that I was going to be an activist all the time. I thought I'll go along to this, see how it goes, maybe do the occasional event here and there. When I went there, that all changed completely. I realised what we were up against here. I saw these animals on the way to slaughter. I saw the sadness in their eyes. I looked into their eyes and saw another living, breathing being. And I also that was the first time I'd seen so many vegans in one place. I think it was around 20 people the first time. That's going up all the time. I mean, just this July just gone, we had over 70 people. So in 1 year alone, it's risen massively. But at the time, at my first ever event, it was around 20 of us. And
How did you find it?
I was just looking online, and I happened to come across Essex Pig Save online, because the Save movement, as I've already mentioned, is a global organisation. I was having a look at all the groups they have throughout the world. It started in Toronto in, I think, 2015 or maybe 2014, I'm not sure exactly. And I was having a look at which groups were in the UK. Manchester Pig Save was the first one here in the UK. And then I saw there was one in Essex, very close to where I was living at the time. So I thought, I'll go along to it. Since then, I've been to almost every single one that they've had since then. I'm also co-organising another Save group, Hertfordshire Chicken Save, as well.
I saw that on your
Yeah, I became a co-organiser of Hertfordshire Chicken Save back in July.
Did you set up that group?
No, the group. The group has already existed before I joined it. I think it's been going for over a year now. I became a co-organiser in July when one of the co-organisers moved away. 2017, July 2017. So one of the co-organisers, Lizzie, she moved to Spain. So they were looking for another co-organiser, and I've always been. Since I became a vegan activist, I've been very close to Mary, the other co-organiser. So at the time, she messaged me and asked if I'd like to get involved, if I'd like to become a co-organiser. I don't live in Hertfordshire. It actually takes about 2 hours to get there whenever we do our vigils. In fact, we've got a vigil tomorrow. I'm going to be up at 4 a.m. just to get there. I decided to do it. Not only are we doing the vigils outside the slaughterhouse now, since I became a co-organiser, we've also been doing street activism events such as the Earthlings Experience, where we show footage to the public to bring more of a focus on bringing the truth to the public, because the public aren't going to go to slaughterhouses. I mean, this slaughterhouse that we go to is very out of the way, very hidden. Excuse me. So we bring the truth to them. Also, we have a third co-organiser now, Claire. She joined not long after me. And actually Mary, the original co-organiser, has left since then. So it's me and Claire that are running this at the moment. And we've got a good relationship with the local vegan community. We go there every month. We get what we hope for. We post our footage online, and we tell the stories of these animals. We show them the compassion which they probably would never have experienced at all during their lives. It's obviously a sad occasion, but a positive occasion as well, seeing how many people come to these vigils just to bear witness to these animals for just a few seconds, a couple of minutes, if that.
So how many members do you have for the Save group?
It's not really in terms of groups all over the world. Hertfordshire Chicken Save. It doesn't really work on a membership basis. Anyone is welcome to turn up at any time. Like I said, there are two co-organisers, me and Claire, and we generally get around 15 to 20 people to turn up every month. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. I think tomorrow we're only expecting around 10 people. Maybe that will go up in the next few hours, who knows. But anyone can turn up, non-vegans included, and we actually encourage non-vegans to come along and have a look at what these animals are going through, to bring them face to face to what they're financially contributing towards. The numbers vary, just like with any Save group all over the world. I think there are over 200 Save groups worldwide now. We have at least one in every continent. It's growing massively.
And how many days will you take for to do the animal protest every week? 7 days.
It really depends on the week. I don't really plan ahead in terms of I don't say right, I'm going to do 3 days this week or 4 days this week. I just see what's going on. I mean, I have a weekly Earthlings Experience here in Romford. That's every Friday evening. So that's always set in stone. We always do that, or sometimes we'll do a different part of Havering, like maybe Hornchurch or Upminster. There are a few other events going on. Like sometimes I'll go to Canada Goose to hand out leaflets to show people what's going on to the coyotes that get caught in leg traps, killed and then skinned for their fur. I also go to Cube of Truth, which is another global organisation by Anonymous for the Voiceless. It's similar to the Earthlings experience in the sense that we show footage to the public of slaughterhouses, of factory farms, to show them what's going on and hopefully get them to reconsider the food choices that they make every day. Sometimes I'll get up really early, go to a demo, and then go to college afterwards, or sometimes I'll go to college, then go to an event afterwards. So it's not set in stone. It's quite spontaneous in terms of what I do when I do it. Really, I just try to do as much as I can whenever I can. Even when I'm not at a demo, I'll be doing online activism. So I show, I share videos online.
You share a post on your Facebook.
Yeah, and people will share that around. I've actually got quite a big following on there now because I've been connecting with so many vegans all over the world. I'll post something, they'll share it, so all their friends will see it. Twitter in particular is a fantastic tool for spreading awareness because it takes seconds to retweet something. So I can get a message across to a large number of people in a very short amount of time. So online activism is important as well, and that's something I do involve myself in a lot.
So how's the result? I mean, how many people?
How, in terms of success, it's difficult to quantify because I get people messaging me all the time saying that they want to go vegan because of my posts or because they've seen me at a demo or that kind of thing. But there may well be people who see my posts or who see the demonstrations that we go to and decide to go vegan without telling me. So I don't know how successful I am, but I know I am doing something. In terms of like actual physical changes we're seeing, I have seen like different shops choosing to stop selling fur because of demonstrations. Like, to give an example, Old Spitalfields Market, which is a massive market in London, they recently chose to stop selling fur after I went there, had a bit of a confrontation with one of the fur traders, shared the video online, and then got everyone to message the market asking them to stop selling fur.
Which market is it?
Old Spitalfields Market.
Old Spitalfield.
Yeah, it's a really famous market.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, they've been going for quite a few hundred years, and as far as I'm aware, they were selling fur ever since they started. But recently, they've started encouraging their traders to stop selling real fur because of the campaign. So that's a big change we've seen. Like I said, there have been other smaller shops that are no longer selling fur. We're seeing more and more shops giving like vegan options, like supermarkets, different restaurants, different cafes. So we're seeing more and more success happening all the time. And recently, just a few weeks ago, Norway, who are one of the world's leading fur producers, announced a complete ban on fur farming, which means that over the next few years, 280 fox and mink farms are going to shut down. So that was an absolutely massive victory against the fur trade, achieved by activists all over the world, spreading awareness, especially activists in Norway who have been fighting for this for absolutely years. So we're seeing successes all the time. Like I said earlier, it's nowhere near fast enough for the animals because around 3,000 animals are being killed every single second all over on this planet. So it's not quick enough for them, but it's happening slowly but surely.
But the one you mentioned, the market, that's really nice.
Yeah.
You can stop.
Yeah, that was an incredible success. I still can't believe that we managed that. That actually got a lot of coverage in the mainstream media.
So did you have protests there, or
it actually never came to them.
You came to talk to them.
Yeah, it actually never came to a physical protest. What happened was, one day I was at a vegan outreach in Brick Lane, which isn't too far from there, and a friend of mine turned up quite late, and she told me that she'd just been to Old Spitalfields Market and had a bit of an argument with one of the fur traders there, because they were selling fur, and this trader was quite rude to her. So the next day on my college lunch break, I went to Old Spitalfields Market and filmed myself confronting one of the fur traders, and he was absolutely disgusting in what he was saying to me. He was he started attacking me personally.
When did it happen?
This was I think September 2017. This video got shared around quite a lot because he was absolutely disgraceful in the way he can conduct himself. He started abusing like my personal appearance, for example. He started saying stuff about my family, even though I'd never seen this guy in my life. Yeah, he started saying, "Oh, my family are slave traders," which is obviously complete rubbish. He was just trying to turn it all on me, and this got a lot of attention. It got shared.
Filmed all
I filmed all of this. It's actually on YouTube. On my YouTube channel. The video's called "A Vegan Confronts Fur Trader." This got shared around quite a lot on Facebook. And then I went back there a few days later with a few friends and basically did the same thing again, confronted the fur traders, filmed it all. And after that, we spoke to the market manager and said that we wanted to do a campaign to stop the sale of fur at the market. And he gave us all the information to do that. He gave us an email address, and later that day I set up an online action page on Facebook where I set up an event, invite people and ask them to send emails to the market, ask them to leave reviews on their Facebook page as well, and hundreds of people did it. It took them quite a while to get back to us, but a couple of months later I received a message saying that starting this year, like starting January 1st, 2018, they would be encouraging their traders to stop selling real fur. There are still a few fur items there because the traders are still trying to get rid of them. They're aware that they're not really supposed to be selling it. I think they're just trying to get rid of it, and then they won't be getting any more in. So this is an absolutely massive victory. Like I said, this is a massive market. It's historic. They've been going for absolutely years, and we've managed to stop them selling fur, all because of online activism. Like I was going back to what I was saying earlier. Online activism is very. If that hadn't have worked, we would have done a protest there. We would have gone there and made a lot of noise, and hopefully that would have worked, but thankfully it never came to that.
Can I ask about your view on animal rights extremists? Because some of the animal rights protesters, they will send words on the wall or something like that.
Well, I think there's an important distinction to be made between what the government considers to be an animal rights terrorist and what it actually means. Basically, the government defines an animal rights extremist as anyone who threatens the business. So that could basically be any activist whatsoever, anyone who goes to the streets to educate the public, anyone who protests outside buildings. For example, there's quite a famous radical animal rights group called the Animal Liberation Front. They're quite well known, but there are a lot of misconceptions about them. People see them as terrorists, people see them as out to cause harm to businessmen, for example. But what people don't realise is they have a strict policy of non-violence towards humans. They're only interested in property damage. For example, they will go into fur farms and break the doors open and set the animals free. And I fully support that. I fully support going into these buildings and rescuing the animals. If you think about it, if you were in the animal's position, you would want people to do the same thing for you as well. You want people to break in and set you free. And I always look at things from the victim's point of view. That's how I came to empathise with. That's how I came to empathise with the animals. It made me realise what was going on, what was happening. So it made me realise it was unjust. So looking at it from their perspective, in terms of so-called animal rights extremism, I fully get behind that as well.
So, but you still think if someone, doing some violent things on other people just for protecting animals, that's not good.
In terms of actually causing violence towards humans, I don't think that's the way to do it, purely because I think it's very counterproductive. A lot of people will hear about that kind of thing and they will think vegans are all crazy extremists. They will be completely turned off the idea. In terms of property damage, so like I said, breaking into slaughterhouses, breaking into fur farms, setting the animals free, I fully support that. I think that's a fantastic thing, and I wish that's something I was able to do more, actually. In the past, I have gone into slaughterhouses and got secret footage. I haven't yet been able to set animals free.
But after you set animals free, where will they go?
Often they will be taken to sanctuaries, with small animals like chickens, for example. They'll be taken to sanctuaries, or maybe activists will be willing to look after them themselves. Sometimes in the past, fur farms have been broken into and the animals have just been allowed to run out into the forests. And I know there's a chance that they probably won't survive because they probably won't be used to surviving out in the wild, but at least you're giving them the chance to survive, which is a lot more than they would have had. So, for example, on fur farms, animals will be killed with via skinning alive or anal electrocution, or they'll have their necks snapped manually. There is no way this can ever be justified. So if you open the door and they run out, and it gives them a chance to escape, it gives them a chance to survive, to fight for their own lives, I'll fully support that, for sure.
So that's how you will treat the fine line?
Yeah, I mean, I won't physically attack anyone, I won't inflict physical violence on anyone, because like I said, I think it's counterproductive. I don't think it's going to help the movement at all. But I do fully support like property damage. I fully support going into these places and rescuing animals. I think that's a great thing to be doing, because whilst the vegan movement in terms of educating the public is more of a long-term solution, because over time these more and more people will go vegan, the demand will decrease, like for meat and animal products, and animals will be saved in the long run. But we need to remember that animals are suffering right now, and that's where direct action comes in. That's where people going into slaughterhouses and rescuing the animals, that's where that comes in, because we can't forget about the animals that are suffering right now.
Okay, and the last question about, because there's a trend now for the animal rights protest. Why do you think there's a trend? And what's your expectation for the future?
I think social media has been an absolute godsend, because it means the media, like the mainstream media, doesn't have a monopoly of truth anymore. So what I mean is now anyone can share something and the news will spread quickly. So these videos, like slaughterhouse videos, what happens in dairy farms, what happens in fur farms, that would never be shown on mainstream television. But because social media has risen so much, this message is getting out there in different ways, so more and more people are seeing it. That's why more and more people are going vegan. That's why more and more people are being awakened to the message. And that's just going to keep continuing. That's my expectation for the future. It's going to keep continuing. For example, in the UK, in the last 10 years alone, veganism has grown by 350%. In fact, that statistic is a couple of years old, so it's probably even more by now. I fully expect that to keep growing. I fully expect that trend to continue. It's been an exponential growth, which is just going to keep getting bigger and bigger until eventually every single person on this planet is vegan, which I think will happen, because injustice won't live forever. Just like one day racism won't exist, one day sexism won't exist, one day homophobia won't exist. In the same way, one day speciesism won't exist as well. One day every animal will have his or her freedom, and they won't have to live in fear. They won't be forcibly bred for our own selfish needs, for our own selfish purposes. That's what's going to happen. I have absolutely no doubt over that. For me, my goal is to bring that day about as soon as possible. It will happen, but like I said, it's not happening fast enough for the animals. All we can do is speed up the process, get the message out there quicker, and these industries will stop exploiting animals, because they're like all industries, they're consumer led. So when people stop consuming meat and animal products, there'll be no need to breed these animals, to exploit them, to kill them anymore. So that's what's going to happen.
So in terms of the industry, or like the luxury brand industry, what
will happen to them? They will have to adjust to the demand, otherwise they will go out of business. Like I said, more and more restaurants, supermarkets are offering vegan options now, because that's where the demand is. These industries aren't harming animals for the sake of harming animals. They're doing it because that's where the money is, and by showing them that there's money in also not doing that, which is going to keep increasing, they're going to stop exploiting animals eventually. They're going to have to, otherwise they're still going to be in an industry which is outdated, which there'll no longer be a demand for, and there'll be no way that they can sustain that. So these industries are going to have to.
Yeah, so the first time you had the... So
just one more thing we were saying was how activism has actually changed me as a person in terms of improved my confidence, because when I first started, I was a really shy person. I was quite unsure of myself. I didn't really know how to speak to the public. I wasn't really sure how to approach activism. But by being exposed to so many different activists around me, by watching how they do things, especially some activists like Earthling Ed, James Aspey, Joey Carbstrong, all very well-known vegan activists. They're absolutely incredible speakers, and I've watched a lot of their videos. I know them in person. I've met them in person. Ed, for example, he's also based in London, so I see him at demonstrations all the time. I've learnt from them. People have learnt from me as well. So it's a great personal development that I've seen over the last couple of years. So it's been great for me personally. Like I said, I'm not doing it for myself. I'm not doing it for fame or glory. I'm not doing it because it's helping me. I'm doing it for the animals. But these are personal benefits I get out of it as well. And that should be something to inspire people to get involved.
But do you still remember when it's the first time you did the demo,
Yeah.
which you think is quite successful and you feel very confident?
With some of the street style activism I've done, so like showing footage, for example, the idea is we get some people showing footage whilst wearing masks, and then other people doing outreach, which is basically speaking to the public. And when I first started doing this form of activism, I used to put the mask on and just hold the footage because I wasn't confident enough
I saw some people doing that outside Canada Goose.
Yeah, so I wasn't too confident with speaking to the public at this point, so I just put the mask on, I showed the footage, and I let other people do the speaking, and I listened to them, I learned from them. Over time, I gradually started speaking to people a lot more, I started speaking to the public a lot more, and this brings me to where I am today. I like to think that I will continue to improve as an activist, I will continue to become more confident, I'll continue to improve my speaking, my approach will continue to improve. It's just like I said, an upward trend that's going to keep continuing.
Because I think I met you once outside Canada Goose.
Yeah, we met up at, I think it was Trafalgar Square, and then we did an interview behind some buildings about the Canada.
Before I interviewed you, I saw you outside Canada.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
You're holding the mic.
Oh, right.
So
Yeah.
I just feel you're quite confident to do that, because some people just sending people the leaflets or something like that.